Welcome, you have reached review time with Emperiol. Today's review will be the Christmas Chronicles Part 2, starring Kurt Russell, Goldie Hawn, Darby Kent, Tyrese Gibson, and that's pretty much the main characters, and Julian Dennison. Alright, if you seen Part 1, Christmas, it was a good first movie, and it gave some excitement. The little girl, Kate, she made a video for Santa, and when he came to show up, she was recording him. And then the pieces on his sleigh went awry, and he pretty much met Kate and her brother, Teddy. So Teddy is not really, he was big in the first movie, but in this movie, he's pretty much, you see him in the beginning, but then after that, you don't see him again to the end. So the movie is based upon Kate, focused on her. So in this movie, it starts off with Belsnickel, played by Julian Dennison. Now, Julian Dennison, our first movie I seen him in was Deadpool 2. And he was the kid, the main character kid that he wanted to burn down the old medical center he was at, and he had a mean streak about him. So that was the first time I seen him in a movie. But nevertheless, he plays as Belsnickel here, which is the main character turned villain in this movie. And so he's in a mission to do some harm for Christmas and get back at Santa. You just don't know why at the time. So he has a elf that's from Santa Elves that's pretty much gone rogue just like him. And their mission is to get back to the North Pole and start some disruption. So the way they plan to do it is through Kate. Meanwhile, Kate is Christmas time. She wants to be home with her friends, enjoying, sleigh rides in the snow. But instead, for Christmas, her mother, and Teddy is on a trip on Cancun, and the son on the beach for Christmas. So she's perturbed about that. She also perturbed, her father passed away. So she's perturbed that her mother's moving on and forgetting about their father. So she's bitter towards Bob, played by Tyrese Gibson. Bob has a son by the name of Jack. Bob's wife passed away sometime. You don't really see that, but they talk about it. So Jack he's a little younger, 3 years younger than Kate, and he's trying to bond with her, but Kate pretty much is like, I don't really want to get to know you like that. I only want my mom with your dad. So Teddy is just going with the flow. So Belsnickel is playing as he works for the hospital. For the hotel, and he sends passes for Bob and the mom to go off to the Mayans resort. He sends a pass for Teddy for the older kids, and he has a date that they could go somewhere. And then for the younger kids, he sends passes to them to go in the kiddie land for the day. And so Kate was standoffish, but then she just said, "I'm gonna go with it." Kate's plan is to book a flight to go back to Boston, and she plans on ditching Jack. Meanwhile, Belsnickel plays as he's the shuttle guy to take Kate to the airport, and Jack sneaks on the little golf course shuttle, and that's where the fun begins. Belsnickel's driving, he speeds up real fast and he tosses Jack and Kate into a wormhole. The wormhole takes them outside of the North Pole. That's this cold area. So meanwhile, it goes to Santa Claus and he's on a sled with the reindeers. He's trying to capture a big, huge bobcat. And right when he was about to catch the bobcat, he sees Kate and Jack off afar. And of course, they knocked out and they getting frozen. So he detours and goes after them to get them, brings them inside of the sleigh. Now, when he travels out of the North Pole area, he travels through like a warp thing. The North Pole is protected. So if you're on the outside, you just really can't see it or whatever. But it's protected. So Belsnickel knows this. So when Santa comes out of the warp to save them, when he goes back in, Belsnickel pretty much is hanging on a sleigh, and that's how he gets inside the North Pole. So they get back. Then you meet Mrs. Claus, played by Goldie Hawn, and she feeds them a special kind of cocoa that basically instantly turns them from cold to warm. And everybody's happy to see Kate. They really can't see how she got there, and Kate's trying to explain it to them. They just seem puzzled, like, how did you get here though? So they don't really know. They haven't figured it out yet. Meanwhile, Belsnickel's plan is to retrieve this star on a tree. Now, Santa takes Kate and Jack is like, wow, you're really Santa. And he gives Santa a hug, and now they're giving him a tour of the whole place. And meanwhile, you see all the elves, and they explain how the North Pole is not able to be seen by the people. So back when Santa Claus was Saint Nick, he would just go through the town and give people things that they needed. And there were elves, and the elves was pretty much under attack, and they needed somebody to lead them. So they had the power they were magical creatures, and they had the power to forge a star. And they came upon Saint Nick, his goodwill, forged a star with him, and that's how he led them to where the North Pole is. And where he places the star at with the Bethlehem and the star radius, it powers the warp that protects the North Pole, that nobody can fly in, nobody can get in and intervene. So Belsnickel's plan is to remove the star. So we got Belsnickel. He has the bobcat that Santa was after is pretty much Belsnickel's friend. So he got Belsnickel. He got his evil elf that's on his side. So you find out the backstory of Belsnickel. You find out Mrs. Claus. You can see, like, she's kind of like, when she see Jack and Kate, she lights up, and she, misses the fact of, like, not having any kids. So Belsnickel was an elf at one point in time, and he was always, more different than the rest of the elves. He would, one of the best toy makers. But what started to happen is when Santa started to, do his rounds through the rest of the world and give the rest of the world gifts, Santa started getting distant from him. So Belsnickel, out of rebellion of being felt neglected, he started making toys, but he would put Belsnickel on a toy and stuff like that. So he started, being jealous and starting to rail. And they stayed with him, but he kept doing it. And the elves have rules. If you got hate, or you're not true, spirited, goodwill, you lose your elf status and turn human. So he started to hate humans, and then he kept doing things, and eventually he turned human. And when Santa and Miss Claus told him to come back, he left after he turned human. And so he been wanting revenge ever since. So that's why that's his attack. And so of course he devised a plan to they got this tower that shoots off like cannon like rays that protects the warp. So he shoots out. He has the evil elf to go up there, shoots out potions to turn all the elves angry and against Santa Claus and Miss Claus or whatever. And so that's one way. And then Big Bobcat goes in and fights Prancer, which is the leader of the reindeers, and he hurts Prancer pretty bad. And now Prancer can't lead the sleigh. So Belcher confronts Santa Claus, and they find out, of course, he was the one that how they got through the wormhole, and he takes the star and leaves. So Santa is automatically going back and forth like, yeah, Belsnickel, you know, pretty much making little squirky comments. Mrs. Claus is like, she's looking at it like that's the father and the son battling, and she's in between in a sense. So Belsnickel leaves with his gadgets, and Santa Claus said, well, it's only one way to get another star, is we're going to have to go forge one with the elves that was able to forge the first one. So that's the travel. Him and Kate takes that trip. Meanwhile, Jack stays back with Mrs. Claus, and she gives him a task to go out in the wilderness and get this particular flower that can help bring heal Prancer's wounds and everything. So, you know, of course, Santa makes it to where those elves are to forge the new star, and Belsnickel's once again hanging on a sleigh that Santa don't know. And he once the new star's forged, Santa's on his way back, and Belsnickel shows up in his own version of the sleigh, and he got these little hyena looking dog things pushing the sleigh or whatever, and he pits this time warp thing on Santa's sleigh and knocks Santa off course, and they lose the star. And so they ended up in Boston 1990 at an airport. And so he pretty much tells Kate, hey, go over, get some batteries from the airport. And the reindeers only move on Christmas spirit, people who believe. And of course, at the airport, all people ain't believing in Christmas. They angry and everything. So Santa got to get the Christmas spirit up to get the reindeers up and going. So meanwhile, Kate has 2020 money, but they in 1990. So they looked at her money as being counterfeit. So they kind of locked her up on airport security. And while she's locked up, she meets a little boy that's pretty much telling her, like, you know, bring your spirits out, everything's gonna be okay. But she's back in time. So what she end up find out, the little boy she was talking to is her father. And she needed closure from her father. She needed closure to be able to move forward and let go. Keep him in remembrance, but let go. So that was her closure at that moment. And so once Santa got the whole airport singing and the Christmas spirit, they were able to get up and going. And he pretty much used that time warp that Belsnickel put on the sleigh, reverse it back to the time when Belsnickel was Gary hit him off course. And basically when Belsnickel tried it, it didn't work this time. So they got back to the North Pole, and they got the star back on top of the tree. And Belsnickel pretty much was like, you may won this battle, but you didn't win a war. And then they kind of talked to him like, look, man, it don't have to be this way, pretty much. And Santa brought out Belsnickel's first toy he ever made, and that kind of touched him. And he pretty much said, well, I'm stuck in this body. I never be an elf again. He was like, yeah, you will. You just have to believe. And his heart turned, and of course, he ended up turning back into an elf. And then from there, that was pretty much the end of the movie. Santa took Kate and Jack back, and They ran into Teddy back at the beach and told Teddy everything. And the mom and Bob pretty much was say, hey, what's up with y'all? Let's sing some Christmas carols, and they start singing a Christmas carol. And the end. So it was a decent movie. Out of my 4-star rating system, I'm gonna give that movie a 3.5 out of 4 stars. 3.5 out of 4 stars. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment. Till next time.